Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here. I just got done streaming a little while for Halo 3. I'm going to upload this right after as well. And I'm probably going to be titling this video, my problems with Halo. This is going to go for Halo as a franchise, as a whole, not just, Halo 3 specifically. However, just to keep it in mind, Halo Reach, I've only played half of. I stopped halfway through because, I was notified that I should be playing Halo 1 first. I completed all of Halo 1, all of Halo 2, and half of Halo 3. Halo 3, I am not playing any more of. I refuse to. The only way I continue playing Halo 3 in any way, shape, or form is if other people that I know personally, play the way we get like a Halo squad together or something like that. Um, and when I'm meeting people that I know, I mean that I personally have connections to outside of the YouTube stuff. Just so y'all kind of get an idea of kind of what goes on with the channel and that sort of deal. I generally don't play with people that I don't know personally because that can lead to some issues. I'm just not particularly comfortable with that right now. However, if the channel gets bigger and whatnot, at least for Destiny 2, I don't mind raiding with like with subscribers and whatnot. I don't mind doing like a Destiny 2 raid or maybe a dungeon, like carrying a couple people through a dungeon, or starting a channel clan. But like for stuff like this, it's a little bit difficult for me personally to communicate with other people, especially when I don't know you. So that's just my personal little, that's just my personal deal. However, that's the only way I come back to Halo 3. I would be willing to go back to Halo 3 ODST, but if there's no fucking sprinting and if there is too much vehicle combat, I'm dropping that as well. Same would go for Halo 4 as well. No sprinting, a lot of vehicle combat. I'm dropping it like a rock. Because holy shit, it feels really bad to not sprint. Halo Reach feels far and away better than the first three. Those first three Halo games because there's no sprinting yet, and it being an older game is in no way, shape, or form an excuse. Quake is older and had sprinting. Who if did it have grenades? No, but to be honest here, Quake's combat and shit feels way better than Halo's. Like Doom's feels way better than Halo's combat in every single way, shape, and form. Like holy shit. Okay, let's go ahead and hear. Halo as a whole has good music. That's something I will agree with y'all. It has great music in my opinion. Halo 2 was a little bit of a question mark for me, which does concern me. At least the anniversary, because um, the same people that are doing Doom Dark Ages music is doing, well, had done Halo 2 Reaches, well, Halo 2 Anniversaries, and I wasn't actually, nothing in there really impressed me that much, if I'm being perfectly honest. I think they're called Finishing Move. They said they did Borderlands 4 music as well, but all of that music was unimpressive as well. I have absolutely no. Oh, sorry, Borderlands 3. I don't know if I said 4 there, but they did Borderlands 3 music, and I'm completely unimpressed by all of the music they've done so far. Um, so I really appreciate Halo 3 had some. Well, even though it's using a lot of Halo 1's music, but Halo 1's music is extremely good. In terms of story, I think it's very solid. I think it's better than Doom. It's probably the best FPS in terms of story that I have played. Because Doom, a lot of the story is told through like in text. Doom Eternal and Doom 2016's, both of their stories are the absolute strongest or anything like that. Um, I will say, well, that franchise doesn't have multiple games, so I can't count that. Franchise that have multiple games, I don't really think there is anything close to Halo in terms of story. Cutscenes, Bungie knows how to do cutscenes. They know how to do cutscenes. Even then, like they segmented that over to Destiny 2, they know how to do cutscenes. That and some of the weapons feel good. Some of the weapons feel good. The sniper feels good to use. The However, I will say the pulse rifle, which I believe is a BXR, I don't like it. I will say the Halo sword feels pretty decent at times. All the snipers feel pretty good, which is kind of ironic because a lot of the Destiny 2 snipers aren't particularly great, and they don't feel as good to use in the same way that Halo's snipers do. The pulse rifles feel way better in Destiny 2 than they do in Halo, if I'm being perfectly honest. Little auto rifle is pretty good as well. I'll say generally speaking, the weapons in Halo 3 I think are better than the previous two games, if I'm being perfectly honest, but pretty solid weapons. Are they anywhere as close to being as good as Doom's? Absolutely not. Neither as Quake's. Nowhere. They are nowhere close. Uh, but my biggest issues are in combat and vehicles specifically. Vehicles feel horrible to use, especially for me. I, generally speaking, struggle as a whole with using vehicles. That goes for any game. That's just kind of how it is. Like a GTA, I crash constantly. At least I used to back when, I was in like before middle school. So it would have been like back when I was in Arkansas, but struggled mightily with controlling vehicles. And the biggest problem for me is a lot of the opposing vehicles one or two shot on regular difficulty. And I already struggle with piloting things. So that's a massive issue. And for normal difficulty, I will say it feels like I have less health than I actually do. Halo 2 had a massive issue to where I could not really tell how much health I had. I could tell easily how much shield I had, but I could not tell at all how much health I had. It was my biggest issue with Halo 2. And I will say that the way the missions are structured is pretty bad at times. In Halo 3 specifically, Halo 2 has really, really awful sections. Really, really awful sections in which I just said fucking just ran straight through. And then they threw wave of wave of wave after fucking enemies. It was the brute spam. Just absolutely spamming the shit out of brutes was my biggest problem with Halo 2 specifically. Halo 3 just has awful missions, if I'm being perfectly honest. The Scarab was the... Oh, the trying to board the Scarab was horrible. It was horrible. Everything in Halo 3 specifically that has involved vehicle combat has been awful so far. Halo 1 had pretty rough combat as well. And then the combat. No sprinting, and even in Halo 3 you have that little combat abilities, but there are entire missions where you don't necessarily get access to it over the course of the fight. It feels like it's, run up on it, put her down, and in vehicle sections, they are entirely useless. And also, I gotta be perfectly honest, the shotgun feels better in Halo 1 than in Halo 3, if I'm being perfectly honest. The shotgun still felt decent in Halo 2, but that Halo 1 shotgun just feels, chef's kiss. And I will say the improvement for Halo 3 is the Flood not being infinitely spawning, like in Halo 1 and Halo 2 specifically, which was something that I really do not like. Like, yes, lore-wise it makes sense, but from a gameplay perspective, does it make sense? No. If I'm being perfectly honest, because at that point, why not just run through all of it? Now, here's where I get into some things, right? Halo 1. Can I recommend Halo 1? Absolutely. Absolutely. I will say I do actually agree with the general sentiment to play on OG graphics. I actually do agree that you should be playing on OG graphics. I thought I wouldn't at first, but to me personally, it is fine. It is like using remaster graphics. I think it's perfectly fine until you reach where the flood kind of gets introduced. I think at that point you go OG graphics. At that point you go OG graphics. I will say also OG graphics makes things a little bit less confusing in terms of level layout sometimes. Especially when the flood gets introduced, a lot of the rooms feels very samey, if that makes sense. So there's that. Right? So, Halo as a whole, I can still recommend. I personally give it like 8 out of 10 hot sauce bottles. I give it 8 out of 10 hot sauce bottles. And, as far as Halo 2 goes, it definitely gets a 5. It gets a 5 out of 10 hot sauce bottles. This game was, like, Halo 2 was awful to get through in the last act, if I'm being perfectly honest. And Halo 3, 0. 0. Well, I'll give it a 2. Actually, I'll be generous and give it a 2. If you can get past the vehicle stuff, I'm sure it's great. I just personally can't. I despise the amount of vehicle shit there is in here. And I will say the tank was the worst part of Halo 1. The tank was the worst part of Halo 1. But in Halo 2, it was pretty sporadic as far as vehicle goes. Vehicle combat wasn't the worst necessarily. But Halo 3 is just so bad. So bad. Just vehicle section after vehicle section after vehicle section. I'm sick of the fucking scarabs. Now, me personally, I have never played, Halo before or whatever. If I'm being perfectly honest, I do regret doing this. I regret doing this. Like Halo 3 specifically, I cannot stand. I don't even know if I have the motivation to do 3 ODST 4. I definitely could probably go back to Reach if I'm being perfectly honest, but not anytime soon. Halo 3 is just going to have to make me take a break regardless of what happens. I do partially regret getting into Halo as a whole. I kind of regret it if I'm being perfectly honest. Because there's so much potential, but like, for me personally, it's just ruined. Just ruined. By Halo 3 specifically. Halo 2 really dropped the bar for me, because like, I'm sorry, but as I've kind of said in previous times, you cannot have bad gameplay and bad level design. You just can't. You cannot have that happen. And I just can't stand how the missions are laid out with the vehicles and shit. And not being able to sprint is awful. I would give up grenades. I would give up a lot to just be able to fucking sprint. Just to be able to fucking sprint. Get rid of the crouch button. I don't understand why there's a fucking crouch at this point. At this point, I don't get why there's a crouch. I would rather be able to sprint than crouch at this point. I don't fucking get it. For me personally, games gotta have a few things in order to really withstand in my mind as a really positive experience. Some of which Halo 1 does have. Number one is music. That being said, you can get away with having, generally speaking, mid music. If I'm being perfectly honest. As long as your music is mid, you can get away with a lot of stuff. Cough, cough, no one was going to agree with this, but cough, cough, Elden Ring. But, story, you can get away with having a mid story too. I am going to point out Elden Ring here. Elden Ring's story as a whole is just kind of mid. If y'all want to see my thoughts on that, go back to my Souls Games Ranked video. You can get away with having a mid story. You can't really get away with level design and combat being bad. You can't. Not necessarily Halo's combat is necessarily bad per se, but I would be able to forgive it if it came out before Quake, Doom, Wolfenstein. If it came out before a lot of stuff, if it was the first, I would be able to forgive it. The problem is, it's not the first. It's not the first. That's my gigantic problem, is it's not the first and actually quite a bit of a long shot. So I don't think even, and also I did forget about Duke Nukem, but Duke Nukem did not get a 3D, and that Duke Nukem 3D was awful, so I can't really count that. All of that to say one big major thing. For me personally, I think my time with Halo's done. I think my time with Halo is unfortunately done. I don't know if I can go back to Reach at some point, but 3, ODST, and 4, I don't know if I even have the patience for it, to be roughly honest. But Reach, I'm willing to come back to. I will say, if y'all can go and convince Breakfast, or convince, help me convince Psycho, if he ever gets time to even do anything, then maybe I'll come back and revisit it. But it's rough out here. I ask you, what is the fate of the Halo streams? You know, what about the Halo streams? What's going to be happening now? So I'm pretty much, by the way, I was going to stop Halo regardless of how far I was in once we reached it, we reached kind of the month of June. this upcoming Saturday, there is no stream in general, due to Monday being Bloodborne 10-year anniversary stream. After that, the following Saturday, there will be no stream either, because it'll be my first time kind of working again, and I'll be working on First Berserker Kazan and putting together a little bit of a review for that. After that, Spider-Man 2, because I'm working on the Platinum, the only thing I have left is to beat the game on New Game Plus. Once I beat the game on New Game Plus, at that point, the new Destiny 2, the final Destiny 2 act should have started. So at that point, might stream some Destiny 2. We might do a few raids here and there. Might do some seasonal stuff. Maybe helping some people catch up. What have ye. It'll kind of be some random stuff until Stellar Blade comes to PC. When Stellar Blade comes to PC, I will be streaming that, not just every Saturday. I'll be streaming that periodically, mostly on Saturdays, but I might stream some extra other times. But I'm going to be working on getting all achievements for that on Steam, because even though I do have it on PlayStation as well. I will be coming out with a independent video on the Stellar Blade DLC as well, the whole Nikkei crossover. I will have an independent video because it does seem like there's going to be a special boss with it. So the only reason why I'm covering that is because there seems to be a unique boss to it. So I'll be working on that. And technically, yes, it will be the third time I would have bought Stellar Blade. So they have my money. They have my wallet in their hands at this point. Anyways, on that note, though, I appreciate y'all for tuning in and hearing out my thoughts on Halo. And where I am at with the franchise as a whole. I appreciate y'all. And if y'all subbed for Halo specifically, I do hope y'all understand where I'm coming from, and also do understand that if y'all look at the videos on the channel, it is rare for me to cover like non-Souls likes and non-Souls games. And when I do cover them, it's usually Destiny 2. So this was never ever going to be, if this was been an independent, if I would have made this an independent video series, I would have titled this like the last episode or whatever. Anyways, on that note though, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate y'all, and I will catch y'all on the flip side.